All right, now we're back. Oh my goodness, we're super excited for this one because this week's top five is top five favorite films from the past 10 years. And boy, oh boy, there was so much. I personally, I know you could not. I mean, it would literally take all of the bones in your body not to put any superhero movies on here, but I resisted because I knew you would have some. But
I only have one. Come on, I only have
only one.
one.
You have two.
No, Birdman is
that
not technically.
that's different. It's
Yeah,
different.
yeah.
Never mind. Okay, I see. I see now because yeah, that's my honorable mention. Anyway, man, oh man, my number five goes to Air. Ben Affleck, freaking Matt Damon, Chris Tucker, Jason Bateman, and Michael Jordan's back of the head. But man, I thought this was
Yeah.
such a great freaking film. Like, it makes you feel good. It's very story driven. It did so well as far as critical review and just people across the land talking about this film. Like, wow, this is an actual story driven movie that we want to see. And that was an amazing thing to see because it really is. It's a love letter to the late 80s going into the 90s, right before Michael comes into the league. And just the songs, the theme, the color tone, like everything was absolutely phenomenal. And it really inspires people to become filmmakers and tell important stories like this, or fun stories like this, I should say. Because, I mean, is it important? Yes, because they saved Nike. But it's way more fun because it shows up and comers that, hey, if we have a fun concept that is either real life or that we, have an idea for, we could do it. We can
Yeah.
make it. We can make this stuff happen. And it also implemented a new tactic for filmmakers in the entertainment industry due to Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. So kudos to them.
Sharing in the equity, yeah. By far. I agree completely with all. You know me. Any movie that is set in the 80s, I'm all in. And kudos to Ben Affleck because his 80s playlist fucking rocked, bro. Like
great,
I have
yeah.
much respect to his music choices because, man, that was one of the best parts of the film was the soundtrack, and they just fucking nailed it. Yeah, I'm right there with it. And it kind of echoes what my top five are. And while my number five falls into the franchise or, with the MCU or whatever, it's not why I picked it. And I tried to keep my top five all as original, story-based, non-sequel, non-reboot, just actual original idea, story-driven films. So I tried to go there. And the reason I picked my number five, Black Panther, is because while it does fall into the MCU, I think it also falls into what I was just saying. I think that Ryan Coogler and the late Chadwick Boseman and Kevin Feige, they understood the importance of what this film could be. And it was a cultural phenomenon because while it was a superhero movie, that's not what it was about. It was about Wakanda and that culture and the grand scheme of representation and what it meant. I mean, when you think about the symbolism and what they're trying to say, Wakanda is a hidden nation trying to stay out of the mess of the world because they're judged and persecuted and like this film sent a strong message about where we were at the time this film was made with how society views, unfortunately, that culture and black people and I think this was, like I said, Disney, to their credit, and Marvel understood this is time. We need this film. And then it was a hell of a film. I mean, it was a great film. Lots of action, lots of stuff, and Chadwick just slayed it. It became an instant hit into pop culture. I mean, how many times were you walking around, everybody's like, Wakanda forever. I mean, it was everywhere, right? You couldn't escape it. So, yeah, it was beautifully told. It was beautifully directed. The visuals were just phenomenal on it. And like I said, I was drawn to the story of it. What were they saying in the story? Forget the cool suit. Forget the badass powers. Forget the MCU. Just the story of what they were trying to say with this film really touched me. And that's why it's my number five, Black Panther.
For sure, man. Always a good pick. Always a good pick. Number four for me goes to Shia LaBeouf's baby. I would say recovery baby, I guess. Honey Boy,
Yes.
because he wrote this when he was in rehab, which he obviously is a very troubled soul, like many of us are, and needed to get a lot of things off of his chest,
Yeah.
especially the relationship that he has with his father. It's basically the story of being a child actor and having a guardian who looks after you, who like is not really the best version of themselves, and like we with taking away the child actors part, there's so many instances in society and maybe even in your personal life, my personal life, anyone's personal life, to where like there's situations to where you're like, man, I could have done that better, or man, I was in a situation to where they could have done that better.
Oh,
So,
without
it's a
doubt.
good mirroring to society. And I felt like, it was a good, I really enjoyed it a lot because everybody knows if you go back and listen to my EOPs conversations with you, um, I have a lot of baggage, especially when it comes to my father. So it's definitely one that hit a nail right on the head, very much hit home. And, you're always looking for that connectability when you go in to see a movie. So I think this one did an amazing job. Not enough people talk about this film, and I wish more people would see it because it is completely beautiful. It's an amazing, ugly, stinky, fascinating film. All things wrapped in it's society, it's life. It is
It
real
is.
life, down and out, coming back up, overcoming odds. It's an amazing story. Everybody should watch it. Number 4 for me, Honey Boy.
Yes, I well said about everything. It's the connectability and the overcoming and rising above, and that no matter how low you are, you can still get out if that's what you want, and you're fighting through it. It's yeah, it's definitely a very inspirational movie that I feel like a lot of people can connect to. I think it works. My number 4 it's got to be one of the most intense movies I've ever seen. And I like this one. I was drawn to this one because, again, of the connectability to the characters. This film, it really highlights what it means when you put too much pressure on yourself to be perfect, to reach the expectations that others have on you, instead of realizing you don't have to do what fucking other people want. You do what you want. You live your life, and your success is based on what you mean success to be, and not what someone else deems. And I'm talking about Whiplash. And shit, J.K.
Movie
Simmons.
gave me anxiety, bro.
I mean,
It
dude,
was
this movie
crazy.
was so Miles Teller and J.K. Simmons, that back and forth dynamic. Holy, I mean, this guy practically kills himself trying to not be late to show up for the drums, and
Yeah.
and then I mean, almost he gets in a car crash, almost dies. He's bloody, he's banged up, and he's like, "Fuck, I gotta go back and get my sticks," like to get. And he gets there only to get fucking humiliated and not allowed to play the drums because he's late. And like dude's like, I don't give a fuck why you're late. You're late. You're not playing the drums. Like those type things. And that slap scene, fuck. Yeah,
Throwing
everything.
that
The
scene,
chair.
like,
Oh my
yeah,
god.
that was improv. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
Miles Teller had no idea.
No, and like I said, this film, if you have ever, or if you're a perfectionist and you have ever put yourself under that type of pressure, this film is for you to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Because it is the ride of how to get yourself out of that, and that you don't have to put yourself through those type situations, and the dangers if you do, and where you could spiral out of control and go to the dark side of things if you don't pull yourself out of that. I think this movie does a brilliant job at showing that. And by the way, this is also a brilliant film for filmmakers, because for anybody who doesn't know, this was Damien Chazelle before anybody knew who Damien Chazelle fucking was. This is before La La Land. This is before all the stuff. This was a short film that he somehow convinced J.K. Simmons to be in. He played the same character in the short film, and it was so good it was spotted, and they're like, no, we have to make a fucking feature out of this. We got to put this out there. So if you're a filmmaker and you think you're wasting your time with short films, or what's the point of making short, this is the point of making short films. If you are a storyteller and it is a good story, things like this happen. And so make those short films, tell those stories, drive it with characters that are connectable. And it doesn't, sometimes it doesn't have to be easy. Sometimes it should be tense. Like Logan said, this was fucking intense. But it's all about that. So yeah, I love this movie. Whiplash. It gave me whiplash. I was just like, oh shit. Yeah, number 4 for me, Whiplash.
It was crazy, man.
It was.
Sure. My number 3 goes to The Photograph. This one is a love story. It's a romance. It's not a comedy.
It's not.
It's a romantic tale. Have you gotten a chance to see this one?
I have.
Yeah. I just really enjoyed it. It's centered around a daughter of a photographer who just lost her mother, and she's just trying to figure out who her mom was before like life happened, basically.
Yeah.
And I love it too because a lot of it is set in New Orleans. We love New Orleans. We're huge fans of the Big Easy. And Lakeith Stanfield and Issa Rae, their chemistry was beautiful.
Agreed.
And like this movie is beautiful. And you know why I didn't think it got enough marketing, publicity, or attention? Because it's 2 black leads about a black love story, which is super unfortunate because honestly, it's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Without doubt.
It is so good. The writing is so good. And thinking about like long distance relationships, how much effort you want to put in, all of these different things. Like it's such a great film that not enough people have seen. Like it's so beautiful. Like it really, I don't have enough words for it, but just go watch it. Go check it out on a streaming service. I'm sure it's there. Last time I saw it was on Max.
That's where I saw it. So,
but be sure to check out The Photograph, my number 3.
I agree with everything you just said. I think it's a beautiful love story. It's visually beautiful.
It is.
And it just plays right back into my number 5 and the importance of what that film was, because we do need more representation. And I think you're right. I think it didn't get the representation that it needed because of the cast and the subject matter and the story. People are still uneasy with that, which just makes no fucking sense to me. Unless it's a Tyler Perry movie, they won't go see it, which makes no sense to me. You know, if that was Tyler Perry's The Photograph, it would have been marketed and done well, which is fucking ridiculous. There are other people, guys and gals. There's other stories. You know, I'm just saying. My number 3. First of all, Keaton. Enough said, right? This was, in my opinion, this was the start of his huge comeback. Right? He wins the Oscar for this. This is it. This is the resurgence of Michael Keaton to the glory of what we have him now. It was this movie, I think, that launched it, in my opinion. I'm talking about Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance. This one's also got Ed Norton. This one's also got Emma Stone. It's phenomenal cast. But this one, while it won the Oscar, and Keaton won the Oscar, and this one was not seen in theaters very much either. This one flew under the radar as well, and I have a strong opinion on why I think this one also was not box office friendly, because it takes a hardcore deep dive look into mental health and mental instability. This is a man who was, and I also see the irony in this, because Michael Keaton has never viewed himself as being typecast as Batman. It's not a problem for him. He you see him at commencement speeches and all that. I'm Batman. He fucking loves being that, or that where he came from that. So I feel like he never was in this position that the character in this film is. But it's basically this guy was a huge movie star playing Birdman, got typecast, couldn't get a job. Everybody just wanted Birdman, wouldn't take him seriously as an actor. And he goes down this deep, dark hole of depression trying to get out of this. And he's constantly, if you guys haven't seen it, Birdman is constantly in his head, following him around. He visually sees him, haunting him. And I think, that's anytime we dive deep into mental health and mental instability, people are like, whoa, whoa, whoa,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I want to watch that. But you should, because this film is absolutely brilliant. It looks at it in a very original way, the storytelling, the filmmaking, while it wasn't technically really all done with one shot, it looks like it is. It's put together where the movie is just continuously moving nonstop from start to finish through like a week in his life. And it's brilliant. It's brilliant storytelling. It's brilliant acting. It's brilliant directing. Visually, it's very striking. And it deals with a subject matter I think we all even more. I think if this movie's released now, more people see it at the theater because we're slowly sliding into talking about mental health a bit more, right? And so I feel like if it was now, this one maybe would have seen a bit more success at the box office. But do yourself a favor, guys and gals, if you have not seen this one, check it out. Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance. That is the full title. That's not Birdman or. That's all. It's the whole. It's a weird ass title, but trust me, just you'll find it. Look it up. Keaton. Oh, man.
For sure, for sure. Well, first off, I want to say my honorable mention is your number 2, so I won't say anything about it yet. I'll wait until your time. But my number 2 is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yes.
We were anticipating this film for so long, especially with our buddy Spencer Garrett being in it the first time. Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio worked together. Margot Robbie, like there's so many amazing people. And I mean, of course, it's a Tarantino movie. So you're going to get just this long drawn out story that let's be honest, maybe sometimes hard to keep up with because he's got a mind of his own and in his own place.
He's a bit quirky.
It's always fun though to be in a person's head because he's that type of filmmaker where he's very much like that. You have 2 hours of his thought process. You have 3 hours in this case of his thought process. And It really is a love letter to Hollywood for the Summer of Love when Manson was doing his thing. And, they take some liberties on some history.
Oh, he changed history. Yeah. He basically.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, but I mean, in classic Tarantino form to just have such an amazing ride. And I mean, of a washed up quote unquote actor who is just trying to regain his footing with the change in the industry, and then of course almost getting assassinated, and then a big ass action scene that's freaking phenomenal.
Flamethrowers. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, like it was awesome, like so great. Like that last sequence is like one of my favorite of all time. But I just, it was. I love period pieces, first of all. That time in Hollywood was amazing. The whole Bruce Lee fight scene was freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Like, we're filmmakers, so to see movies about films and filmmaking is what we love. So that's why it's on my list. Number 2 for me, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, I would consider that an honorable mention for myself as well. It was a beautiful love story to Hollywood, to Los Angeles. The visual, it was just absolutely stunning. He was capturing iconic landmark places. You got Mulholland Drive, you got the Cinerama Theater, you got all these landmark places that if you're unfamiliar with there, are just iconic things in Hollywood and LA. And I love that he changes history. I love, what if Manson didn't succeed? Right. What if Sharon Tate didn't die? And I mean, and we got a little deep dive into Tarantino's brain with his obsession with feet.
Yeah.
If you guys didn't know, he's obsessed with feet. He's got a foot fetish. And, if you're going to have a foot fetish and you're going to highlight some feet, Margot Robbie is pretty good. I mean, she's got some good looking feet, y'all. But apparently he was a little bit fixated on Margot's feet. I'm just saying. I thought that was one of my favorite parts of the film, though, was her portrayal of Sharon Tate. And because Sharon Tate, I felt like was that time frame's Marilyn Monroe. there was a blonde bombshell who was actually really talented, but then also very introverted and unsure. She didn't believe that she was as good as people told her she was. And like that scene when she's watching herself in the movie and she's realizing that people are enjoying it and see that was so powerful. It's little things like that Tarantino is really good at, right? Just like character studies of let's show you a bit inside the head of this person and what they're thinking at that time. He just does that so well. Great pick. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. My number 2 is Terrifying because it's literally happening right now. It's literally happening, which is why I think it was so relevant. It's also why I think it didn't do well at the box office because people were terrified to watch it and see it. But I think this is a must-see film. And our upcoming episode of Everything's Okay, we dive deep into this and what's going on and the subject matter of this. My number 2 is Civil War. And it's basically taking a very stark, harsh look at the political landscape and where it's at right now. And it's gone over the edge. It's where we're headed. This film takes us there. It takes us over that edge and puts us into a spot of if where we're headed actually happens. It's terrifying. I know you too, but because we talked about it, but I was all in on this movie because it's being told from journalists' point of view. And coming from a journalism background and working 20 plus years in news, I was very gravitated to this film of seeing them trying to get to Washington to tell this story and the risks and the dangers that journalists will put themselves in to tell the truth, to get the facts out there, right? So you hear so often now we're dissing on journalism and broadcast media and you know, they're this or they're that. But there are real journalists out there doing real work, telling real stories and giving you the facts and often putting themselves in danger to do so. The assassination attempt on Trump, you saw it. Those people, that iconic photo that is everywhere, that's a photojournalist standing up while gunfire is going on to get that shot because his thought process was, I need to get the shot. This film highlights it so beautifully about that. We have to let the people know what's going on. We've got to make the story there. And it's a terrifying story. It is a country broken apart. Parts of the country have seceded, and they're at war, internal war, and talk about an intense film to watch, y'all. This one, it's be ready for it because it will cause you anxiety. It will cause you to feel anger. It will cause you to feel sorrow. About the only thing it will not invoke in you is humor or laughter, but you will feel every other emotion in watching this bad boy. Because man, I and there's so many unexpected things in it. Like oh shit moments.
That's the thing. Prepare yourself for visually graphic things.
Visually graphic.
You'll
oh
see
shit.
Like
it's
stuff that you would only see if you went to war type shit.
Yes,
I love this film. Like I absolutely
because you feel like you're in it.
So good,
right? Don't you feel like you're the whole time you're watching it? You feel like you were on this journey, literally with them in that war zone, riding along with them. That like it's fuck. It was so well done, man. So it might be one of the most important films of this generation, and maybe even in the last 50, 60, 70 years. I think it's a must-see film. It's very eye-opening, and it doesn't hold back. So my number 2, Civil War, but be prepared. That's what we're saying.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Shout out A24 making original content.
Oh my God, so good. So good.
Love to see it. My number 1 goes to, I talk about this one often, but I mean,
do.
It's just a reminder. 1917. Oh my gosh. Like this one, I just from start to finish. It's kind of like Birdman in the sense of, that one continual shot. Of course, it's broken up between days and things like that. But I mean, it's kind of like a little bit like the British Saving Private Ryan, a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just, it's a beautiful film with some amazing actors and amazing storytelling, and just, it's kind of just, it shows you we're sending kids over there. We're sending kids to war to fight our government battles, which is terrifying because like some of these kids, like they might not even agree with what's going on in the government, but since they enlisted, they have to do this. And especially like back in that time period where they're like, no, you're going. Like,
yeah, you didn't enlist. You were just drafted.
Yeah,
you didn't have a choice. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you have a problem with it, like you're going to jail. And I mean, it's just such the colors, the cinematography. Like, I mean, there's always a special spot, like, in my creative brain when it comes to war films. But this one in particular, it's one of the best of all time, in my opinion. But yeah, man, Sam Menendez, he freaking killed it on this thing. And, I mean, I would just love to watch it again, but tonight I'm going to go watch Twisters.
Yes, oh my God, you're going to love Twisters. We'll talk about that after we get through this. We'll talk about that because, oh my God, you're going to love it. I agree with you. I think it did the same thing that Civil War did, like I was just talking about. You felt like you were on this journey with them the whole time. This whole time they're trying to cross through the war zone and get to where they're doing. You felt like you were with them, and it was intense, and you didn't know what was going to happen, yeah, beautifully shot. And I think it's another great character study because it does a good job of showing you both sides. Because I think we lose touch of the fact that the enemy is also doing what they think is right. Their parents, their sons, their daughters, they're just trying to protect their families and their country from what they perceive as the enemy. They just want to live and get through it and go home to their loved ones. The same as we do. And even though we perceive them as the enemy, we have to remember, and this is kind of plays into what we were just talking about with the assassination attempt and the political violence and all this kind of shit going on. We have to remember that just because we're coming from different points of view, just because we're coming from different ways of doing things, we have to remember that we're all human beings. That guy across from you that you're trying to kill is the same human being that you are, loving his family the same way you love your family. In a war he probably doesn't want to be in the same way you don't want to be in it. And yeah, I think Civil War and 1917 do a really solid job of reminding us how that is, that we lose touch of that far too often, and it's why wars happen, because we lose touch of that.
It's true. Why are you talking about my top fives more than me?
I don't, because you spark it in me. I'm passionate about it. You did really good.
I know.
Oppenheimer. My number one is Oppenheimer. I won't say a lot about this one because I have talked about this one relentlessly. Oppenheimer, in my opinion, is the single greatest film ever made. I think it knocked off Godfather for me. I think everything about it is filmmaking perfection. From the script to the casting to the directing to the visuals to the storytelling to just literally everything. This is a masterpiece by Christopher Nolan in how to tell a story, how to make a film. It's another one. I liken it to what Cameron did with Titanic or what Spielberg did with Lincoln. Even though you know the ending, you're still on the edge of your seat freaking out about what's going to happen, even though you know what the fuck is going to happen. So I think anytime that a filmmaker or a storyteller can do that, you know the boat sinks, but you're still wondering, oh my God, is the boat going to sink? What's going to happen? Or Lincoln, are they going to pass the slavery bill? Are they going to end slavery? Is he going to that? But you're still like, ah. And this movie for me did that too. He gets the bomb. It works. They drop it. They end the war. But you're still on the edge of your seat the whole time. And for me, any film that a packed theater you don't know what they look like because they never once look back away from the screen. Glued to the screen. That was this film. I couldn't tell you what anybody in my theater looked like because nobody looked away from the screen long enough to see their face. They were all just glued. And that tells you everything you need to know about how good the film is. So my number one, Oppenheimer.
I have old gray hair now. My back hurts. I have a walker. I have 3 grandkids. And now we are finished with the top 5.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. We want to know, what is your favorite film of the past 10 years? Please be sure to comment below in the YouTube comment section. Add us on Twitter or X or Threads. All the good things. We love the fan interaction. So
yes.
Please be sure to do so. We love it. We love it.